Hi everyone. So a friend recently asked me whether I could talk a little bit more about the NI-SE axis. So rather than focusing on NI or focusing on SE, I want to start reasoning about these two functions, which are the functions of perception of 8 types out of 16 in the MBTI typology, in the Jungian typology as well. And this NI-SE axis, more specifically, is of course very prevalent in the NJs, right? So the INTJs, the INFJs, the ENTJs, and the ENFJs. We're talking about the NI-SE axis. And it's very useful to think about the NI-SE axis, or for the other 4 types in that family, the SE-NI axis, which is essentially the same thing. The only difference is that when we're talking about the NI-SE axis, we're by definition talking about being closer to having NI as a world or having NI as a world, and relating to SE as a slightly less integrated gathering function to gather information and data, the data of experience in external reality to feed the NI world. And what I want to emphasize in this video is that nature does things well most of the time, all right? As the French say, la nature fait bien les choses. And it is the case that nature has done things well for things to work out fairly well in this particular instance, because only SE can work with NI. When it comes to perceiving, collecting, processing, and intuiting, eventually visioning, refining through TI, and so forth. Justifying sharing through FE, and sharing through FE. It all begins by a gathering. And the gathering is done by SE. Couldn't be done with NE. Why couldn't it be done with NE in the case of an NI user? Which is incidentally why people who say that, like they're NI dominance, but like their second strongest function is NE, don't really make sense. Because if you like, NI is a fundamentally fluid function. Right? The contents that it works with are not rigidly defined. They're not rigidly demarcated. They're like chains of associations in the NI world, right? Somewhat like, to be honest, we could almost say that what NI does is the same thing, except in the external world, so that NI also functions by association, but NI tends to associate objects in external reality. And its originality comes from being able to mix those objects. But its essential units, the essential units of NE, are objects in external reality, are events in external reality. The creativity comes from their combination, from their association. NI is a little bit different in the sense that the objects that are in the NI world are already permeated with archetypes. Hence the symbolism that you don't find really in any strong NI users. It's because an NI just has the archetypes kind of activating it, right? So the associations are always charged with archetypal energy as well, okay? But nevertheless, it's a fluid function, works with fluid contents. You can't really work with categories in the NI world. And whenever an NI dominant speaks about their NI world or their worldview in very categorical fashion, you can be pretty sure that what they're giving you is their NI world curated to a significant extent by the functions of judgment, FENTI or FINTE, depending on whether you're talking to an INFJ or an INTJ. Now, NI is fluid. NI has to work with SE inputs. Okay, NI has to process SE inputs. There's no way around it. Right? If NI does not have any SE inputs to process, NI is going to dry up, okay? And here is why only SE can work with NI. Not SI with NI, not NE with NI, not whatever with NI, okay? SE is not fluid. NE is fluid. SE is not. SE is discrete and literal. It relates to particular pieces of data in a kind of like high resolution, visceral fashion. It seizes a piece of content, and that piece of content is discrete and literal. It has a solidity to it. It's not fluid, it's solid. NE is fluid, NI is fluid. SE is literal and local. SI is literal and local. And that's precisely the reason why SI can't work with SE and why NI can't work with NE. Because fluid with fluid leads to nothing. There can't be a marriage. You need to bring an element of fluidity to kind of grab and capture the solidity of the NE input, to mix into, you know, like a new brew of sorts that creates something new. In order to be, there needs to be a dynamic. In order for there to be a dynamic, there needs to be some sort of opposition in substance between one function and the other. If you try to make NI work with NE, you will never actually get anything. You will never actually process anything because there will be no hooking. How do you hook fluidity with fluidity? How do you hook literal solidity with solidity? In one case, it's like you can't hook it. Everything remains fluid and forever out of your grasp. In the case of solidity with solidity, if we try to picture SI and SE, it's like there's so much solidity that the SE input can't even penetrate the SI world because there's rigidity against rigidity. It's like trying to make, you know, a round fit into a square. So nature does its work very well. The SI world, or in this case, maybe we shouldn't say the SI world, but the introverted perception of SI users being rigid, discrete, localized, and literal needs a kind of watery inflow of any percepts, right? To populate it, and then you know the SI framework will solidify what's been happening. In the case of the introverted perceptive framework, you know, that's defined by fluidity, that is the NI fluidity, you already have an ocean. So what you need is actually solid blocks to come in and populate the ocean and allow the mixing to happen in that way. You need dynamism, and for dynamism you need some contrast, right? And the contrast is always between fluid and solid, between non-local and local, between continuous and discrete. That's another way of putting it. NI is a profoundly continuous realm. SE is a discrete realm. SI is a discrete realm. NE is a continuous realm. It's only the marriage of continuity and discreteness, of solidity and fluidity, of locality and globality. It's only that marriage, that newness, new experiences, and new ways of meaning making happen. And that's why it makes sense to speak of an NI-SE axis, and also, by the way, of an SI-NE axis. Let me know in the comments what you thought, guys, and give me a like if you enjoyed this video. Don't forget, I have written 2 books on a wonderful personality that is called the INFJ personality, the latest one being the Infinite Soul. INFJ Life in the Modern World. Check the links below if you'd like to get it. It looks at how INFJs can find meaning, purpose, and value in a world that is often seen as hostile by INFJs, and arguing that authenticity and adaptation blended is the key to the good INFJ life. There's also the Ecstatic Soul, which is my older book on the INFJ, the prequel, and you look at the INFJ personality, and that's the deepest investigation into the type that you will find online. Enough said. Check the link below. And as usual, guys, don't forget, I have a Patreon page, which is the lifeblood of my channel. So please consider supporting me there if you want me to continue producing high quality videos every day for you. You get some really cool perks like a Discord server access only for Patreon members, as well as bonus video contents every 2 or 3 weeks. So please consider it. The link is below, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.